Did you do it yourself or did you do this with somebody?
I did this myself.
Awesome. All right, so you're showing us your version of car race. I see a boulder. I see the car has moved. The truck has moved.
I'm sorry, something's... Give me a sec.
Sure.
Wax.
We see that. Green
What
to
did I
start.
sell? Hot dogs, waffles, or tacos?
That's funny.
What did I sell? Hey.
Hot dogs.
Okay.
Let's explain what he's doing here. He has asking the user what to sell. He's sticking that into a variable. Go ahead.
And then there's a hot dog on top.
Oh, that is awesome. That is so awesome.
Because there are different costumes for the food truck.
I love it. Different costumes. Depending on the costume, you use an if then and you switch the costume, right? Excellent.
Yeah.
I love it. That's great, Kevin. That's great. Yeah. I love that you're experimenting.
So when you click the flag, it asks you this. Then it asks you how many laps do you want to play in each race. 3,
cool.
Whatever. And for some reason, the ice cream truck is going sideways. I don't know why, but
it's going diagonally.
But each time you press the green flag, the rock moves to a different location, and you can't hit the rock.
Oh, awesome! I like that.
You teleport back to the beginning if you hit the rock.
That's awesome. I love that.
I still need to do all the controls, but
that's amazing. So guys, you see Kevin put a little bit of time into this and he's enhancing his game in such ways that we never even imagined. That's great, Kevin. I would encourage you to keep that up and show us your version. Maybe email the version even after the semester. I'd love to see what you come up with, okay?
Okay.
That's awesome. I'm gonna, with your permission, I'm gonna steal your screen back.
Okay.
Go ahead and stop sharing. I'm gonna share. And we'll continue where we left off. So the first thing that we did, Kevin, were you able to do with the next thing that we were hoping to do together of no cheating? Guys, you remember this thing with the no cheating?
Oh, no holding down? I didn't do that.
You didn't do that. I think that's kind of important, and I'll tell you why. Because if our game allows a cheat, then it's not really fun because you just hold down that key, like we said. Let's just
put the rocks, then it's harder.
True, but I think you still want to be able to just not hold down a button. Okay, see, I'm holding down the button. Yeah, I win. I'm holding down the button. Watch, instead of just tapping, I hold down the button and I win. The reason this is important, by the way, is you remember I told you about this device called the Makey. Aaron, you remember about the Makey? Oren, you remember you were there? Were you here that day that I mentioned the Makey is a cheap device. I think it costs $20 or $30. You plug it in, and then you can connect. Aaron, let's focus on the class. Ask your brother not to bother you because we're really going to get very, very intense this class. Okay? So ask your siblings to let you be alone. Yes, thank you. Ask him, and if he doesn't cooperate, ask your parents to help you. Thank you, buddy. So Makey allows you to, let's say, tap with our feet to race the car, or tap or clap our hands to do that. So it wouldn't be cool if I just held my hands together, right? Or put my foot on a pad and have the racer race. So we want to avoid that. Any ideas on how we do that? So watch, when we, just to review, who could tell us what makes the car move, first of all? Aaron, can you tell us what makes the ice cream truck move? Sorry?
I can't really hear that.
Can you see?
Yeah.
Okay, what makes the ice cream truck move? Show me, tell me where in the code the ice cream truck is moving.
The ice cream truck is moving. Move 10 steps.
Where is that? You're right here.
Yeah.
If where is it inside of? It's inside of a block, right? It's inside of an if. What is the if? What is the if that we're looking at to make the truck move? Oren.
If
Oren, let's have Oren do this. Aaron, tilt on your camera if you can, buddy, please. Oren, unmute yourself, please. Oren, do you see move 10 steps as an instruction block on the screen? Okay, what has to happen for that to happen? What block is it inside of? If you're muted. Oren, you're muted. Oren, you're muted. Unmute yourself. Now you're unmuted. Okay, Oren, what has to happen for that move 10 steps to happen?
In looks, in motion, the first block is move 10 steps.
Correct, but what has to happen? You see it's inside of an if block. If something, then move 10 steps. If that if doesn't happen, it's not going to move 10 steps. What has to happen for the truck to move 10 steps?
If you hit the right arrow.
Correct, hit the right arrow key. So now this loop that we're inside of, this repeat until loop that we're inside of happens very quickly, right? So if I'm holding down the right arrow key, it's going to when I hold down a key on the keyboard, it's as if I'm pushing it repeatedly, right? The computer is so fast. When I hold down a button, it's as if I'm tapping like super speed. So any ideas on how we're going to prevent that cheat from happening? What do we want? Let's talk about it in English, Aaron. I see you're saying you don't know, but think about it. If I'm holding down the key, I have an if saying, if right arrow is pressed, do something. What do I want to do right after I move 10 steps? Right after that, what do I want to do? I want to make sure that, tell me in English. You're muted, Aaron, unmute yourself. You guys are all behaving. You could just keep yourself unmuted. You don't have to mute yourself. Right after I hit the right arrow key, what do I want to make sure that is happening? Again, let's talk about it in English. Don't worry about the computer.
press it.
What, Aaron?
You can't just hold it. You have to press it.
Okay, so I'm pressing inside of this if, after we move 10 steps, right after we move the 10 steps, I'm still pushing the right arrow key, right? Because the computer, it happens instantly for the computer, right? What do we want to do right after we move 10 steps? What do we want to do right after? We want to make sure that...
Starting the finish line?
No. Right after we move 10 steps, the first time we move 10 steps, again, remember, we don't want to let the player cheat. So right after we move, we check to see if the right arrow is pressed, we move 10 steps, and then what do we want to make sure that is no longer happening? Kevin?
Us putting down the G key.
Right, so we want to, after that, we want to make sure that the right key is not pressed, right? So first we're checking to see if the right key is pressed, and we move 10 steps. Right after we move the 10 steps, we want to check and make sure the right key is no longer pressed, right? Oren, what is that? Stop that. All right, so right after we press the right arrow key, we move 10 steps. We want to make sure the right arrow is no longer pressed. How do we do that?
Maybe I'll wait until key D is unpressed.
Okay,
Or
I like
out.
the direction that we're going with that. Let's see. Wait until, you said, right? So wait until what? And where do I put this wait until, first of all? Where should I put it?
Under the if then.
Right here. Correct? Oren, please stop that. Oren, please stop and focus. So does everyone agree with putting this wait until right after the if block for moving the 10 steps?
No, inside. Inside under.
Inside
under
what? Why inside?
Under move 10 steps.
Why inside and not outside? That's a great answer you gave, actually, but I want to explore with you guys why inside and not outside. So let's leave it outside for a minute, okay? Actually, let's put it inside. Let's make it hopefully work, and then we'll put it outside and see what the difference is. How about that? So, give me a second. Wait until, and we said to put it inside, okay? So right after we move 10 steps, we're going to wait until what? Aaron, what are we going to wait until what? Unmute. remember, the truck just moved, right? We pushed the right arrow, we moved, and what do we want to wait until what? Tell me in English. Until what?
Button is pressed.
Until what?
The button is pressed.
So again, we're inside this if. We already pressed the button. We moved 10 steps. We don't want the button to be constantly pressed, right? We don't want to allow that. So what do we wait until what? Wait until the button is
Pressed.
not pressed.
Let go.
Let go, right? Until we have to wait until the button is let go or not pressed, right? Oren and Aaron, does that make sense to you guys?
Yes.
So when we're in this if loop, the button was pressed. We moved 10 steps. Now we want to make sure that the button is no longer pressed. We have to wait until the button is not pressed. So how are we going to tell the code something not? Well, we know how to do button is pressed, right? It's right here. I'm going to duplicate that. Right arrow is pressed. So how do we do right arrow is not pressed? If we go to sensing, there is not a not something. There's touching. There's not touching. There's key pressed. There's no not key pressed. There's mouse down. There's no not mouse down. So how do we not? Yes, Aaron.
Make a variable.
Pick a variable. Okay, that's a good answer. Maybe we can do a variable, but there's a very easy way actually. In operators, remember I told you operators section has comparing things and math. There's a not. You see this not over here? So that is the opposite of the condition that we're looking at. So if I take this not and I put this key, right arrow is pressed. So this is a condition not right arrow is pressed, and I'll put it right until the wait until. Does that make sense? So now we're going to get stuck into a loop that does nothing really until the key is pressed. I'm sorry, the key is no longer pressed. Does that make sense, guys? Now let's test it out, my friends. We always test, right, after we make a change. So I'm going to click.
This might not work. This might not work because it might not work the second and third and so on time you press it.
Okay, let's test it. So an easy way to find out. Can you guys see the game screen, or should I increase the size? Increase the size. How's that good? All right, I'm pushing to the right and it's moving to the right. So it's beautiful, it's working. Now I'm gonna hold down the right key in 3, 2, 1. I'm holding down the right key. I'm holding it down right now. It's not going anywhere. So it looks like it worked. That's beautiful. I'm holding right now. The right key is being held down by me. I let go, nothing happens, and I push again. It's going to move. So as long as I let go and I push, it's going to move. But if I hold it down, it's no longer going to move. Now we have a battle of speeds by the two players, right? Because now it's about how quickly I could push that button. Does that make sense?
Holding it down is pushing it infinitely quick.
Correct. Holding it down is causing this wait until. It's sort of a loop, even though it doesn't look like a loop, but Kevin, you're right. It's a loop. We actually could have done this with a loop. And as a matter of fact, let's try to do it with a loop. Aaron or Oren, I want to challenge you. If I told you you are no longer allowed to use this wait until, it doesn't exist. We got rid of it. It costs a lot of money. You can't use wait until. How do we create our own wait until? Any ideas? Variables. Aaron, you're gonna have to stop saying variables for everything, because at one point I'm gonna tell you wrong.
Well,
What block?
Make a block.
I have no idea.
Make a block. Kevin does. But Kevin, you actually gave it away before. You said as long as you're holding the right arrow. What is that? You just told us. You said it's an. You said it was an infinite loop, right?
Infinite.
Infinite loop. So why don't we make an infinite loop that is not infinite? It stops being infinite once we let go of the key. Can we do that? Well, we know how to create loops, right? How do we create loops, Aaron?
How do you keep
A repeat forever loop.
that one?
A repeat loop, right? Repeat. Here's a repeat loop, repeat until, right? Can we say repeat until something is true?
Oh, repeat until not key right arrow pressed.
Correct. Repeat until not key is pressed, right? And I'm going to put it right where it was before. Instead of a wait until, I put a repeat until. And let's test it now. I'm going to hit the right.
You have to put the repeat until. You have to put the if then block inside the repeat until.
But why? We just proposed changing. I told you you can't use wait until anymore, and I said let's replace it with something. So wait until was right in here, right? So I'm just replacing it with something. It should work. If I start moving it around, maybe other things will happen. We could experiment with that. But all I'm proposing is that.
Yeah, but there's no code inside the block, so
That's okay.
happen.
That's okay. We can actually put something inside to see that it's repeating, but it doesn't have to be. So let's try it. How about that? Let's try it. I'm not going to increase. Should I increase the size? It doesn't really matter. And I'm hitting right. That's a bug, by the way. I could start playing before answering the question of how many laps to play. We'll have to deal with that. But I'm hitting right. It's working. And it's working, and the ready, set, go also doesn't work. Okay, you remember I told you, Kevin, that the pause is not a good idea for the ready, set, go? That's the reason, by the way. We have to figure out that bug as well. But I'm holding down the right key and it's not moving. So it actually is working. That is, repeat until not is the same exact thing as wait until not, right? It's the same exact thing. The only difference is that we could do stuff inside of this repeat block. So just as an example, just so you could see that this is working, I'm going to, let's increase the variable. Let's increase the truck score just as a test to see that it's actually stuck inside of that wait until, repeat until rather. So how do we increase the score? Aaron, where'd you go? Aaron, how do we increase the truck score just as a cheat or a way of seeing that this repeat actually is we're inside the repeat? How do we increase the truck score by 1 each time we're inside that repeat loop?
By 1?
Yes. Say the thing you've been saying all day long.
Make a block and make it
Variable. Yeah. So we're going to go into variables. How do you increase the score by 1 inside of those variables? Do you see it? Do you see a way of doing that? We're going to change something by something. See that? So I'm going to throw that right in here. I'm going to change, it doesn't matter really, car score by 1. And now when I run this code and we look at it, what's going to happen is I'm going to push to the right. I'm not going to hold down the right. You notice the car score is increasing because I can't release the button quick enough. But if I hold down the button, look what happens to the car score. You see how it's increasing by thousands and thousands? That's how many times that repeat until loop is running, right? As when I let go of the button, it's going to stop counting up. When I hit right, it's not counting up. But if I hold down the button, it's going to start counting up very fast because that's how many times that loop is repeating, waiting for me to let go of the button. When I let go of the button, the number stops counting. I see Aaron likes that. You're a math guy, aren't you, Aaron? We should do some math stuff together. I see you enjoyed that. So I'm going to take that change by out because we were just experimenting. And it's much more elegant for us to just have a wait until, right? Without a repeat. I'll leave the repeat because I think it makes more sense. We're just repeating and doing nothing, okay? So that bug has been fixed. Bravo, thumbs up. Should we move on to fixing the other bugs we just saw, or should we try to do the multiple laps? The multiple laps is going to be fun. Let's do the multiple laps, okay? Let me just add to the bugs here. Take some notes. What were the bugs that we saw? Could someone remind me? Can start racing before.
You can hold down. You can press right before before you answer how many laps you want to play.
Right. Cat countdown. And also can start racing before answering how many laps to play. Okay, great. Back to our tasks and multiple laps. Aaron, where are you, buddy? Are you tired? You're not fasting today, are you? Shouldn't be as tired as I am. We're gonna do some variables. You like variables, right? All right, so let's go back to our code and let's talk about how we're gonna do the multiple laps. Any ideas of how we're gonna do the multiple laps? So where we left off last time, Aaron, as I'm sure you recall, and Oren, I'm sure you recall, is we ask how many laps you wanna play. we store that into a variable. So let's say I want to say 6 laps. We store that into a variable and nothing else, right? We didn't really do anything. Once we reach the finish line, it's going to. Why is everybody so slow now? It's probably because of the repeat until. Let me change this back to a wait and see if that makes a difference. Maybe that the repeat until is just like slowing us down a tiny bit. So I'm going to throw that back into the wait until.
And why is the car score still being
Why what?
car score like I don't know.
The car score, remember we just experimented by showing that we're in the repeat and we put the variable to increase the car score. We're gonna have to reset that car score back to 0 at one point. We're not focused on the car right now. Let's see if this improved our action here. All right, so when we reach the finish line, for multiple laps, we don't want it to be a finish line. We started talking about, I think it was Adina who suggested how to do this. She suggested last week that the car should turn around, right? The car should turn around. So we need to do a few things. We need to, first of all, we know how many laps we want to play, but we're not using that information. We need to use the variable how many laps to play, right? We need to, that's one thing we need to do. Aaron, what else do we need to do? Or Oren or Aaron or Kevin, as a matter of fact. Give me some ideas of what are the concepts of what we need to do. We need to, first of all, we know how many laps. Go ahead.
Then play again variable equals how many times you turn around.
So play again variable is just for, do you want to play again, yes or no, right? Strictly for, do you want to play again, yes or no? It's not for keeping
laps to play.
Right. So we're keeping track of laps to play, but we also, I think what you're trying to say is we also need to keep track of how many laps we've played so far, right? Right, guys, that makes sense. So Aaron, how are we gonna keep track of how many laps we've played already? Or even better, laps to go. I think if we show how many laps are left, that would be better. How do we keep track of how many laps we have left to go? Aaron or Oren?
When you hit the finish line.
Hold on, Karen, sorry. Aaron or Oren, yes. How do you keep track of how? Make a variable. Good. We're gonna make a variable. What are we gonna call that variable? We're gonna call it laps remaining or something like that. Uh-oh, project couldn't save. That's not good. Why is project not saving? We're in trouble. All right, not sure why that is, but we'll have to figure that out.
Share it.
Hopefully we don't lose the work that we did. Okay, but we'll figure that out. We created a variable, laps to go. So if we start the game, when we start the game, I should see, I'm gonna move this laps to play out of the way. And I'm gonna also put laps remaining up here for now. I know it's a little bit ugly with, would you like to play again? But nevertheless, when we start the game, it's going to ask us how many laps to play. I'll say 6. And now, when the game begins, how many laps should we have remaining when the game begins? Oren, can you tell us? If I want to play 6 laps, when the game begins, how many laps should be remaining?
Laps to play equals the start of laps remaining.
Okay, good, right. So at the beginning of the game, Oren and Aaron, does that make sense to you? When we start the game, the number of laps remaining should be the number of laps we want to play, correct? All right, so how do we do that? Kevin just suggested to us that we're going to do it somewhere. Where is the place to do it?
Operators.
In which sprite, first of all?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, but the best place to do it is in the place where?
Oh, in the car and the food truck.
Why? In the cat. The cat is asking how many laps do you want to play. We set the laps to play to the answer, and then we're also going to, at the same time, Aaron or Oren, unmute yourselves, please. Tell me where I'm going to set and how I'm going to set the laps remaining to be the same as laps to play. Remember on the left side here, you see you can act on variables. We could set a certain variable to be some value, right? Just like we did set laps to play to the answer the user gave, we're going to take set, another set, we're going to put it right after laps to play. We're going to set what? We're going to set laps remaining to be what?
Yeah, 1.
Laps remaining 1. What about if I wanted to play 6 laps? So laps remaining, remember, laps to play contains how many laps the user wants to play, the player wants to play. So why don't we set laps remaining to be the same as laps to play? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm going to take the variable laps to play and replace the 0 with laps to play. So now laps to play goes into laps remaining. Let's try that. Let's test it. Let's test it. I'm going to say laps to play, let's say 4. And I should see, do you see the laps remaining also before? You see that, right? Okay, great. Looks like we did the trick by doing that. Try to zoom the screen this way so you could see, so we could see both. Do you guys see both the game and the code? Okay, great.
What?
Okay, great. So now I think we're good. It's a good start, right? We have laps remaining is going to be the same as the number of laps we want to play. What do we want to do every time we hit the finish line in this case? We don't want to go back to the beginning. Last time we said we're going to make the car or truck face leftward, right? And then we're going to race towards the left, towards the start line. Yes. That's what we decided.
Make like every lap too.
Okay, so every time we touch the finish line, what should we do? Should we decrease a lap is going to be what? One round from start to finish and back to start. I think that's 1 lap, right? Like a round trip from the starting line to the finish line and back. So how about we make a starting line first? So we can sense that. How do we make a starting line? Remember, guys, before we had a finish line that we created, we had other sprites. How do we create a starting line?
Well, what if I just say is?
What did you say? I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Well, now we'll just pick another variable, erase it, and then make a line, and then call it finish line.
Hold on a second. What is the finish line here? Who could tell me what is the finish line? Is it a variable? Is it a graphic? Is it a sprite? What is it?
It's a sprite.
It's a sprite down here, right? So instead of this, just like we have a finish line, let's create a sprite starting line. And we created that. We drew it, right? So let's draw the starting line. I'm going to draw it. I'm going to paint.
A red and white checkerboard.
Red and white. I remember I really stink in graphics, so I'm gonna let you guys improve the graphics, and I'm gonna make this just a solid green, like a green start.
Yeah, and make like the end line red.
The end line red. Yeah, you're gonna do that. You're gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. You're gonna do it. You're gonna show us how to do it, and you'll do it.
Nice. Erase it and color.
I don't even know how to create a box. Oh, here it is. A box. That's our starting line. No border, no outline. Okay, that's our starting line. And we go back to code and we go back to our palette here, to our screen. I'm going to take that starting line and I'm going to put it right at the start. Perfect. That looks pretty good. All right, I'm going to move the truck. Let's leave the truck where it is. So now we want to be able to see when we go back to the starting line, we're going to do something with the lap variables, right? That will be 1 lap. I see your thumbs up, Aaron. That makes sense to you? All right. So we said once we get to the finish line, we're going to do what with the car or with the truck? We're going to make it turn around. Right? How do we do that? Who could tell us how we make the car turn around? You remember, for one thing we have to do, we have to set a variable.
Let's direction 90.
Okay, I like that suggestion. So we go back to our truck sprite, and when we're touching, we should already have a when touching finish line, right? And instead of changing the score, we would have to flip the car around, right? Does that make sense? So we don't, in the case of multiple lap race, we want to change the score. Instead of changing the score by 1, we want to flip around. We don't want to say, yay, I won and all that good stuff, right? Because you didn't win yet. All you did was finish 1 lap. Or not even, you didn't even finish 1 lap. You have to finish 1 lap when you go back to the starting line. Okay, so when touching the finish line, we want to motion, turn 90 degrees, we said, right?
But then it's upside down. That's the only problem.
And then it's upside down. Let's see if that's the case.
No, point in direction 90.
Point in direction. We already actually, you know what?
Point in direction -90.
Actually, there's a much easier way to think about this, and it makes more sense than angles and degrees. Point towards, and instead of mouse pointer, we could say point towards sprite 1, which is our starting line. I'm going to rename it so that it makes sense to us what it is. If I could figure out how to rename it. Starting line. Oop. Okay, so now if you look at our code for the food truck, we're actually pointing towards the starting line. That makes a lot more sense to me. Let's get rid of that turn. We don't need that turn anymore. We're gonna point towards the starting line. Let's test. I think Scratch's servers might be down. That's why it's not letting us save. Hopefully we don't lose all this work. I'm gonna start racing. Ready, set, go. I'm gonna start racing and I'm gonna point when I hit the finish line. I'm gonna point towards the starting line. Perfect, perfect. So far so good, right? But the problem is that it thinks the race is finished, which it's not, right? It's pointing towards the starting line. That worked, but now it's also doing the score by 1 and you wanna win, yay, I win, and you wanna play again and all that good stuff, right? We don't wanna do that in the cases of multiple races. Who can give us, this is a little bit more advanced. I don't know what happened to Kevin. This is a little bit more advanced. And can anyone give us an idea? Do you guys can think of what we have to do in order to make this continue racing? So again, if we have multiple laps, welcome back, Kevin. If we have multiple laps,
Sorry, my internet was bad.
it's okay. If we have multiple laps, we want to not win at this point, right? So right now in the code, if we're touching the finish line, we point towards the starting line, and then we give the score. We give him a score of 1 + 1, and then we say cheer, and then we say, yeah, I win. We didn't really win, right? When it's multiple laps, you didn't win. So how do we do that? Inside of this if block, we have to do something. We have to get a little bit smarter. We have to say, if I didn't win the race yet, flip around and continue racing. But if I did win the race, then do this other stuff. So how are we going to do that? Any ideas, Aaron? Oren? Say again?
Make a variable?
Make a variable. We can make a variable.
Maybe make a block.
Make a block. You know what? Let's make a variable. I like the way you're thinking. Let's make a variable, and I'll call the variable race ended. And let's figure out how we're gonna change race ended to yes. So first of all, in the beginning of the game, when we start with the green flag, we want to set race ended to what? Who could tell me, Aaron or Oren? Can you tell me what we're going to set race ended to? Has the race ended when we first click the green flag and start the game? No, so I'm going to set it to no when we first start the game, so we don't have to worry about this right at the beginning for the cat. All right. And if we look at the variables, we'll see race ended here. When I click the green flag, you should see, and no. You see race ended no. Good. So how are we going to change it to race ended yes? Who could tell me? What happens? How do we define that the race has ended? When we touch the finish line and also
when laps remaining equals 0,
Good.
change race ended to yes.
Very good. When laps remaining equals 0. Correct. Correct. So
Laps remaining is not going to change.
before the laps remaining are 0, that means that we continue to race multiple laps, right? That's another way of saying it, right? Oren and Aaron, does that make sense? Before the laps remaining is 0, we still have laps to race. The race isn't over yet, right? So therefore, we have to do some interesting logic inside of this if. You see this if over here? What do we do? So if I'm touching the finish line, what? In here, we have to check to see if the race has ended, right? Right? Does that make sense? So I'm going to go to controls. I'm going to say if the race has ended, then do these things. If the race has ended, if the race has ended, you're going to increase the trust score, we're going to make the sound, and we're going to say, yay, I win. So what? How do we say if the race has ended? I'm going to go to variables. I'm going to grab the race has ended, and I'm just going to say race has ended is what? Is yes. Remember we had this equal to? So race ended equal to yes. If race ended is equal to yes, then we're going to do the cheer sounds. Otherwise, we're going to point towards. So we're going to, let me just make this a little bit clearer so that you guys can understand what's going on here. We have if race has ended is equal to yes, then do something. And then right after, to make this very clear, we're going to have if race has not ended, do something. And let's put that before the yes. I'm going to throw out all this other stuff, and I'm going to put the point towards the starting line here. So does that make sense? When we touch the finish line, if the race has ended is no, meaning the race hasn't ended yet, we're going to do what? We're going to do the multiple laps logic in the code, which is point to the starting line. But if the race has ended, then we increase the truck score and the game ends and we cheer and all that good stuff, okay? So let's test this now. When we start the code, what is the...
I can't hear anything.
You can't hear me?
No, I was talking to my parents.
Okay. We're going to start the game. First of all, there's a little bug here. I clicked the green flag to start the game. It says how many laps, but the truck is facing the wrong direction. So we need to reset it upon starting the game. When we click the green flag, what do we want to do right away? Just like we reset the play again and the truck score and all that, we want to also point in the right direction, right? How do we point in the right direction?
Point in direction 90.
Well, how about we use point towards like we did before? Point towards where? The finish line. It makes the code much more legible, right? We could read it much better. So right when we start the game, we're going to point towards the starting line. When I click the green flag, we got that fixed. See how it points towards it points towards the finish line, and now I'm starting to race, and it's starting to race sideways just like yours.
Well, but the question is, point toward what part of the finish line?
Correct. That is an absolutely good point. So
I think it's gonna be the middle, so it'll go a little bit down.
That's very perceptive, and that's correct. So this won't work. We're gonna have to point in direction 90. I'll get rid of the point towards, and same thing here. The point towards I'll get rid of. I'll say point in direction. And you see this. So this is all an experimentation, right? I'm experimenting along with you. So point towards negative 90. So I pointed the arrow to the left. Let's give it a try again. It's pointing towards the finish line. And when I race, it's racing straight. Beautiful. When I hit the finish line, let's see what happens. So
it will go upside down.
Maybe not. Let's see. Let me get rid of this because this is distracting. Okay, guys, do you see on the screen? Get rid of this project. Let's see. Okay, do you see on the screen how many laps do we want to play? 4. Laps remaining 4. Ready, set, go. And I'm going to start going. So race ended is no. That's so far so good, right? That all makes sense. Race is not ended, no. Laps to play is 4, laps remaining is 4. When I hit the finish line, hopefully it won't say, because race is ended is no, it hopefully won't say, yay, I won and all that stuff. It stops. It says, would you like to play again? It points in the right direction. And so we have to fix that little bug, right? But it doesn't say, yeah, I won, and it doesn't increase the score. Do you realize I didn't?
Would you like to play again? I don't think we're using that.
We are using it. We were using it up until a few minutes ago. The problem is that we're exiting this loop, right? Why are we getting to, would you like to play again? Aaron or Oren, can you tell me, how is it that we get to this, would you like to play again?
If
It means that we exited this loop, right? This loop that we're in, wherever this loop is. Repeat until, repeat until touching the finish line. We don't want to stop once we touch the finish line. We want to continue, right?
And take the you want to play again from the bottom out.
We want to keep repeating the race multiple laps until what? Until the game over, basically, right? Not until touching the finish line, because now the finish line is maybe multiple races, multiple laps, right? So how about instead of exactly, I'll throw this out until race ended equals yes, right? Is what we want. I'm going to duplicate this race ended equals yes, and I'm going to put it in here. And now let's try it again. We're going to try it again. And we start again, number of laps 6. I'm going to start racing. Notice number of laps remaining is 6. Laps to play is 6. Race ended is no. So I'm going to start racing. And let's see now if the game ends when we touch the finish line. I touched the finish line. Beautiful. Look, we're still inside the loop because we changed it to race ended, a check of race ended. We're no longer saying if touching the finish line. And now I'm continuing to push right. And by the way, it's moving to the left. I'm not pushing to the left. I'm pushing to the right and it's moving to the left. And now it goes through the starting line, which we don't want. So who could tell us? I see Aaron is enjoying.
So we have to do it when touching starting line, point in direction 90.
Right. So what Kevin is doing is we're going to mimic when touching the finish line. We're going to also do if touching starting line. So I'm going to duplicate this whole block. I'm going to right click and duplicate the whole block and put it right under if touching finish line. And things are looking a little bit crowded and messy, but this all makes sense to us, right? Because this is code that we're developing and it makes perfect sense to us. I'm going to say if starting line, touching starting line, as long as the race hasn't ended, which it can never end on the starting line, I'm going to point back to the 90 degrees. And I'm going to get rid of this whole winning stuff because that could never happen for the starting line, right? And let's test now and see if what we did works. This is so exciting, guys. Look at this. We're having a serious race going on here. 6 laps, and I'm starting to race. So number of laps to play is 6. Number of laps remaining is 6. Race and ended is no. As soon as I hit the finish line, we know that it already works. It points to the other direction, to the left. Still laps to play is 6 and laps remaining 6 because remember, a lap is going from the starting line to the finish line. So as soon as I hit the starting line, oh, what happened?
Orange thing too.
I actually don't know what happened. Let's find. Somebody has to help me find the bug here because I don't know what happened. I expected it to work. Why is it not flipping around? Let's look at the code. We can figure it out together. We have a repeat until race ended. If right arrow is pressed, move 10 steps. Wait until not pressed. That's the cheat we added, the cheat prevention. If touching the finish line, then inside of the finish line, if race ended is no, point in a certain direction. If race ended is yes, do something else. And then we have another if touching the starting line, if race ended is no, then do certain something. This should work. I don't know why.
You have to delete the if race ended is no. You don't need that.
I have to delete what?
You don't need the if race ending is no for the starting line.
It's not in the starting line. It's just a part of the code. I see what my bug is. Who could discover the bug? Look at where this if is. And what loop is this inside of? If we look at this if touching, it's inside of this if touching finish line. You see that? I made a mistake.
Inside.
I put it inside by mistake. I put it inside of this if touching finish line, but I really should have put it outside. Right? Right
Yeah.
here. Right here.
Yeah.
And let's
Yeah,
test that.
That's correct.
And let's test it now. 6 laps. I'm gonna race, ready, set, go, and race. And we have 6 laps to play, 6 laps remaining. We point to the left, beautiful. I wish I could get rid of the cheat so we could test this faster instead of me pushing. And then when they hit the starting line, beautiful. It points to the right direction. So when I did that, when I went back to the starting line, that's 1 lap, correct?
It's not going to 5.
It's not going to 5. You're right, Aaron. And Aaron or Oren, no Kevin in this case. How are we going to fix that? We want to make sure that every time we touch the starting line, we go to 5 laps remaining, 4 laps remaining, 3 laps remaining, right? How do we do that? Where do we do it? And how do we do it? Kevin, I know you know. I want to give a chance to Aaron and Oren. Sorry, buddy.
One touching starting line, 2 to 5, then 4, then 3.
Excellent.
1.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So if touching the starting line, you're saying decrease the number of laps remaining is what you're saying, right? In fancier English. How do we do that? We change the variable. We go to variable and we change it. So which variable do we want to change?
The laps remaining variable.
Laps remaining variable. And we said when we touch the finish line.
When
Laps-
that's finish line, make
Laps remaining, change laps remaining by -1.
-1.
Correct. So we're going to decrease. -1 means decrease, right, Aaron?
Yeah.
And now let's test that. And guys, you know, in order to save some time here, I'm going to take out the cheat prevention for a minute so that I could just hold down the button because it's my finger is getting numb by doing that. Tap, 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 tap. So I'm going to throw this out and just keep it on the desktop for now. Okay. Does that make sense? And now I could just hold down the button, 6 laps. 6 laps remaining. I'm going to hold it down. I'm going to hold it down. It's going to race to the finish line. It's going to approach the starting line. Let's see if the magic works. Whoa, laps remaining 5. Awesome. And now, look, yeah, clap for yourself. And now 4. And now 3.
Don't make it
And now 2. And now 1. And now 0 laps remaining. And win the game. Oh, -1, -2. Because we didn't deal with the fact that we finished the laps that we need to finish, and we just win the game now. So let's go in the few minutes we have remaining. Let's think about how we're going to fix that. This is an amazing progress. I'm excited to play this game myself with you guys, and I wish we could play this next to each other if we were in class together. But maybe after COVID, we'll get together and we'll have a race party. I'll change this to 1 lap because 1 should be the very minimum. And we come back, laps remaining is 0, and we have a problem. So how are we going to fix this? So let's go back to winning the game. Remember, we had a way of winning the game when we changed it now to if race has ended.
Equals 0. Do all the stuff. Do
Right.
like
So
here, all the.
so when race has ended, when laps remaining is 0, the race should end now, right? Right.
No, like,
When race ends.
So where is it that we decreased the number of laps? Where was that, Aaron? We changed laps remaining right here when we touch the finish line. I'm sorry, when we touch the starting line, we decreased the number of laps by 1, right? How about we check and see right here? We check and see if there's no more laps remaining and make that race has ended, yes, meaning the race is about to end. It's like the last lap. How do we do that? Again, how do we check stuff in code, right? I'm saying let's check and see. When we have no more laps remaining, that means that the race is about to end. So we use, yeah, how do we check? How do we check something? How do we check? If, right? We're gonna say if something, right after we decrease the score by 1, we're gonna say if something. Let me get rid of that. If, you know, let me put it out here so that we can do it and then stick it into the right place because I don't want you to get confused. I want to focus on the logic. If what? If what did we just say? If there are no more laps remaining, then the game is about to finish, right? Right? Okay, so if what? You
If
didn't tell me.
zero laps, if zero laps,
Good.
if the number
Good.
zeros on lap remaining,
If laps remaining is 0, right? So I'm going to go to operators. If something equals something, then I'm going to go to variables. Exactly what you said. Laps remaining is 0. Then what? I want to set the variable race ended to set race ended to yes. So I'm going to change this to yes. I'm going to change this to race ended. And instead of race ended, let's rename the variable because I think we're reinterpreting what we want this to mean. It's not race ended, it's race ending. Because it hasn't fully ended, but it's about to end. In other words, it's like the last lap. Let's test it. I'm going to click the green flag and I'm going to say 1 lap. And I'm racing. Laps to play 1, laps remaining 1, race ending no. And it's gonna go make its round trip. As soon as we hit the start line, what happens? Whoa. Look at that, look what's happening. This is Oren's favorite. Because I was stuck on the starting line. That's another bug. You see, as soon as I'm stuck on the starting line, it's gonna keep decreasing and decreasing and decreasing. You see, because I'm still touching the starting line. So that's a little bug that we have to fix. And I would also say, let's see if we could also deal with the race ending. So instead of if laps remaining is 0, let's change it to laps remaining is 0 or less than 0. How do we do that, guys? I can't even find where we put this. Laps. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't stick that into the block. Guys, come on. You got to wake me up.
Can you put the
I didn't put this code in. Guys, we wrote it, but I didn't put it into the code block, right? So I'm going to put this right after here.
Can you guys get a cup of water?
Guys, give me 1 second, please.
What if for when it asks you how many laps you want to play, you don't put in a number. You put in letters.
How would that help us?
I just want to know what will happen.
Oh, that's a very good point. That bad things will happen, and we need to deal with things like that in our code. But that's a very good point, Kevin, and that's something we have to deal with. So there's other places that's a problem, right? Like if you laps remaining, what about a replay again? If you put a number, we have to have ifs that say if it's not within the expected input, then ask again, ask the question again, or say what kind of silly answer is that? So I'm going to say we're going to play 1 lap. Laps remaining is 1. Race ending is no. And I'm going to race. I'm going to come back to the starting line. And notice that right away, race ending is yes. Laps to play is 0. Laps remaining is 0. And it looks like the game ended at this point, right? What does it say under here? It says, would you like to play again? Okay. So that's good. We're making progress, right? We're making progress. We're doing it in the wrong place though, right? We shouldn't check to see if race is ending at the starting line. We should do it at the finish line because we don't want to end the race over here, right? So who could propose to us how we do that? So we're checking if laps remaining is 0, set race ending to yes. I'm going to take it out of here. And where do we want it? Who can propose to us where we should have it so that it makes more sense? We just said it. We said when we're at the finish line, right? So where is it that we're at the finish line if we're touching the finish line? I'm going to put it right in the beginning of touching the finish line.
Can you put the link to this in chat?
I will, but it's not letting me save it, so I'm not sure I can put it in chat. It's actually the same. I created I didn't create a new version. It's the same as last time. So if you have access to last week's, you'll have access to this. And I could actually put it in the chat now, even though it's not saved. Well, I'll have to figure that out. I'll take care of that myself. But here's the link to the game, same as last time.
Okay.
Okay. And we're going to be wrapping up in a couple of minutes. But I just want to make sure that we understand, and let's see where we just left off real quick. Before we had the bug of ending the race at the finish line, we want to end the race we ended it at the starting line, we ended at the finish line. We're decreasing the number of laps at the starting line, which is fine, it's perfect. See, right now we're continuing to race. And once we hit the finish line, it's working. The game is over. And yeah, look at Aaron's excitement. I am excited too. It's amazing because we changed the check to be at the finish line and now the game ends. Let's also test this for multiple laps. A good coder always tests different scenarios, right? So we just tested it for 1 lap. I'm going to change this to 2 laps and see what happens. I'm going to race. We know about the bug that we could start racing before ready, set, go. I'm going to race. It continues. Look, that's the 2nd lap and now it ends. So it's working. Beautiful. Amazing, actually. Fantastical. I think we need a little bit of touching up here, right? Yeah. Like it should say, did it say yay I won? I didn't notice.
No.
Did you guys notice if it says yay I won?
I have no idea either.
Okay, let's take a look. 2 laps. I'm gonna start racing and 1 lap and 2 laps. And let's see if it says, yeah, I won. Yeah, it works. Yeah, I won, play again. Looks like it's perfect, except for the few bugs that we have. So big round of applause to my genius coders. Well done. I'm going to put back the cheat code because my finger, remember I took out the cheat code so that I don't have to keep pushing and my finger getting numb. Where does this go? Who could tell me? Aaron or Oren, can you tell me where this goes? Wait until? Remember, this is wait until I'm no longer pressing the right key. So where should this go? Tell me exactly where I have to put it. Aaron, where?
Somewhere in the beginning.
All the way in the beginning?
I don't know, somewhere in the beginning.
No, you got to tell me exactly where. Remember, we put this down. What's another way of saying this? This is like, don't press the key anymore. Wait until the key is no longer pressed.
No, before the move 10 steps, the first.
Here?
Yeah.
All right, let's see. I'm going to start the game. It's all about testing and experimenting, right? And I'm going to start moving. I'm moving, and you're right, it actually worked in here. I thought it would not work, but it worked. Okay, in this case, I have to let go of the key for it to move. If I put it after the move, it's going to move and then wait for me to let go of the key. Sort of the same thing. I think it's a little bit more elegant for us to move first and then require the user to let go of the key. So, say that again?
Can you change the backdrop?
You want to change the backdrop? I'll let you do that yourself in your own code. How about that? So go ahead and remix this. See, what I want you to do for our upcoming class, on our last class together, right? On Monday is our last class together. We're going to celebrate, we're going to play the game, but I want you to take some time and play the game the way it is now and write down all of the bugs that you see, because we saw a few bugs. We still have a few other weird bugs and a little bit of cleanup, right? We don't need this race ending variable. As a matter of fact, I'm going to get rid of that variable right now. I'll uncheck it. We don't need the race ending. And laps to play and laps remaining, let's just keep that there so we see that nice and neat. Okay, guys? Remix it, play with it, come up with the bugs, come up with your ideas. In the next class, we're going to wrap things up. We're going to have the most amazing car race game. Get your big smiles on your face. I see Aaron smiling every time we achieve something. That's awesome. Same for you, Aaron, buddies. Genius Coders, I'm looking forward to our next class and last class. Play around with it and see what you come up with. Okay, buddies? Look for you have the link, and also your parents will get an email with the link there.
On our last class, can you also do like a show and tell of other projects we've created?
If we have time, that's a fantastic idea.